All right, so had some technical difficulties there to start with, guys, so I had to get that fixed. Thanks for jumping back on.
That's how we go.
So, Dewan Mathis is in ICU. Seems to be doing pretty well. Apparently, he had a cyst next to his brain, and the UGA staff has been there for him. The medical team has been there for him. They've really been working hard to make sure this guy's well taken care of. And that's one of the things I really like about the university is that they do a great job of trying to take care of these kids. When circumstances arise, they're right there taking care of them. It's like whenever when Zeus blew his knee out at the end of his senior season in high school, the UGA medical staff was already in the works right away to get that guy taken care of. So it was really nice to see that that as soon as something popped up, they were all over. They got it taken care of. They did have him in ICU, but he seems to be doing fine now. Apparently, they've talked to the father. It looks like he's going to make a full recovery. So that's really exciting. It's something we definitely like to see. So let's go to kind of cover what kind of cover what's going on already with the commits. Before we do that real quick, I'm going to grab some water. I'll be right back. I'm going right there. So. All right. Sorry about that. Needed to get some agua. Okay. So as far as the commits go for 2020, kind of here's what we've got lined up so far. And if you look at the recruiting class rankings, which I'm going to pull that up right now just so I have an accurate comparison right in front of me. If we look at the 2020 recruiting class rankings, and I'm using 24/7 Sports as a reference. So right now, Georgia is in the number 5 spot with 10 commits. And we've got several others on the hook. Right now, Georgia has 2 5-stars, 8 4-stars, an average ranking of 94.56. Alabama has 1 5-star, 12 4-stars. And something kind of unusual that we normally don't see out of Alabama is that they picked up 4 3-stars, which Georgia may pick up some of those later on. I don't know. Let's see what's going on with this. Georgia may pick up some 3-stars, but that'll be later on in the season once we fill some of their spots. As far as the individualized average ranking, this is kind of what I wanted to talk about. Georgia is averaging 94.56, and Clemson is averaging 95.4, so not even a 1-point difference. After that, it would drop down to LSU, believe it or not, at 93.29, and then Alabama at 92.48. The reason I bring those numbers up, and I know it's early, the reason I bring those numbers up is because it kind of shows you where you're trending. Now, if you throw into the mix that Clemson has 16 commits, Alabama has 17, LSU has 15, and Miami somehow has 15 commits, and then Georgia at 10. Georgia at 10 with only 10 commits has 2 5-stars already in the fold. Clemson's already got 4 5-stars, which is tremendous for them. It's probably going to be one of the best recruiting classes that they've had in many years. So definitely impressive. Ohio State's got 1. Oklahoma has 1, and I think that's about it. Gruen, I'm going to get into that in just a few minutes, but there's something else I wanted to point out. If we drop down to Texas A&M, Texas A&M has 1 5-star recruit already, and that's really impressive for Texas A&M. That kind of says something about that program. It's kind of on the way up. Stanford somehow has a 5-star. Clemson does have the potential for a historic class. There's no doubt about it. But there's only a handful of teams right now that even have any 5-stars. So there's Clemson, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Stanford. That's the only teams right now that have any 5-stars. Any 5-stars committed for 2020. Again, it's early. I get that. But if it's this early in the season and we've already got 2, and by the way, if you haven't dug into the numbers, it could potentially be another record. I always pick a 5-star from either California or Georgia. Check it out on 24/7. That's possible. Stanford has a really good program there as far as their scholastics go. Man, I got this awesome hair going on today. So let me jump over to the guys that we have committed. I'm going to talk about those guys real quick, and then I'm going to jump into the kind of the targets that we have, the people that we're going to be looking for. So we're going to start out with Mikael Sherman. If you guys don't know who he is, he's signed with Georgia. He's already committed. Well, he's committed, hasn't signed, but this guy's 6'3", 234. He's an offensive linebacker, and his score on 24/7 Sports is a .9951, one of the highest we've ever had. The next guy who's a 5-star is Broderick Jones, who's a 992. I mean, that's up there. He's offensive tackle. So, and then we got obviously Tate Rutledge. We stole him away from Tennessee. He was looking at Tennessee. One of the guys I'm really excited about is Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter is huge, 6'4", 300 pounds already, and the guy's beastly. Carson Beck, pro-style quarterback. He's a 4-star. It's possible. Outline is going to. It's very possible that Carson Beck could end up being a 5-star rated player by the time it's all said and done. Jalen Kimber, who's a cornerback, he's 6 foot. Remember, the player rankings will change before it's all over. It will. And some of these players are likely to move up in stature. Our line is going to be unstoppable the next few years. I agree with that. This is probably going to be one of the best years as far as the offensive line goes. This is probably going to be one of the best offensive lines that any running back at Georgia has seen for any number of years. So it's going to be impressive to see what Swift can do this year. Nazir Stackhouse, another defensive tackle, 6'3.5", 300 pounds. Jamil Burrows, defensive tackle, 6'2", 330 pounds. Akinola Ogunbiji, I can't pronounce that guy's name. He's an offensive guard, 6'4", 329 pounds. And then Justin Robinson, who's a wide receiver, who's 6'4", 200 pounds. And I thought it was really interesting. Depending on how things play out with Demetrius Robertson, we may very well have 2 Robinsons on the field at the same time and both in the wide receiver spots on either side of the field. So it could be interesting the way that turns out. Keep in mind that these guys could move up in ranking. But I want to go over some of the stats just so you kind of get a feel for the 5-star ranking or the 4-star ranking or however you want to look at it. Mikael Sherman, he is number 1 in the state, in his state, number 2 in that position, and number 11 nationally. Broderick Jones, number 3 in the state of Georgia, number 2 at his position, and number 20 nationally. Tate Rutledge, 6 in the state, 5 in his position, 39th nationally. Jalen Carter, 7th in the state, 5 in position, 68th nationally. Then you've got Carson Beck, who's 9 in the state of Florida. 9 in the state of Florida. There's a lot of football talent there. Number 3 at his position, and number 76 nationally. I think all but 2 of our recruits so far are in the ESPN 300. So that ought to tell you the quality and caliber that we have with only 10 players. There's a ton of commits out there. It really seemed that right about, I want to say it was April, it started taking off. We started picking up a lot of guys. I'm going to jump over to our prospects who we're looking at getting. One of the guys that I'm looking to get would be Zachary Evans. This guy is a 5-star. He's number 1 in the state, number 1 in his position, and number 1 nationally. This guy's an absolute amazing running back. Comes out of Houston, Texas. He's number 1 in the state of Texas, number 1 in his position, and number 1 nationally. His ranking is a .9987. He is definitely impressive. Georgia's doing a great job of recruiting him so far. Georgia's the favored team for him to come to, but there's also been some talk of he's starting to warm up to Clemson. So if you look at the timeline of things, you'll see that this is probably going to be DeAndre Swift's last year. It's probably going to be Brian Herring's last year. The reason I say probably is because it's possible one of them can get an injury, only play 4 games, and they can come back and be a fifth-year senior or whatever you want to call it. Then you'd have Zeus and James Cook stepping up. I think there's another player in there. I can't remember his name. So the timeline for Zachary Evans to come into the fold would be now. It'd be a great time for him to come to University of Georgia. Obviously, University of Georgia has an outstanding record of how we deal and help running backs get into the NFL. With the exception of Elijah Holyfield, I think he's about the only one that has really struggled since then. That man seems like a perfect RBU running back. He does. And if you guys go to Dogs 24/7 or 24/7 Sports and look up the teams and watch his tape, it's a link to it right on the site. Guy's impressive. Very, very impressive. Defensive end Jordan Burch, number 1 in the state, number 1 at position, number 5 nationally, 5-star recruit, rated .9977. These guys, let me back up to Zachary Evans. So Zach Evans has 43 other schools that have given him a offer of a scholarship, come play at Georgia, and 43 other schools did the same thing. I believe I can't remember if Alabama's in the mix with him or not, but I don't think so. It's really close between, or the two closest I should say, is Georgia and Clemson. But I don't see Zachary Evans fitting into the Clemson style of play. ETN, he does a great job there, but I think this guy is more of a fit for Georgia style of play. Jordan Burch, 6'5", 250 pounds, defensive end, big boy. A lot of reach on that guy. Now look at another wide receiver here, Julian Fleming. This guy's a 5-star, also at .9977, number 1 in the state, number 1 in position, and number 6 nationally. He's warm. We were and are still targeting Paris Johnson Jr. He's already made a commitment to Ohio State, but Georgia has flipped guys in the past. So that guy's an offensive tackle. He's 6'7.5", 295 pounds. So at 6'7.5", that's a really, really tall guy, and that's great. But at 295 pounds, he's actually a little bit on the thin side for his height for a offensive tackle position. So they probably want to put a little muscle on him, put a little weight on him. Kelee Ringo, cornerback, 6'2", 205 pounds, also a 5-star. Is favored to come to Georgia. He's a 9956, number 1 in the state, number 1 in position, and number 9 nationally. Eric Gilbert, guy's 6'5", 245 pounds, 9954. He's favored to come to Georgia. He's gotten warmer over the last couple of weeks here, starting to favor. Mikael Sherman's already committed to Georgia. Darnell Washington, this guy's out of Desert Pines in Las Vegas, Nevada. He's a 9943. This guy is number 1 in the state, number 2 at position, and number 14 nationally. Another 5-star player that's warm at Georgia. Another guy that Georgia thinks they might get. Kendall Milton, running back. This guy's another phenom. He's a 5-star running back as well. So you have Zachary Evans, who's a 5-star running back, and then you have Kendall Milton, another 5-star running back, number 4 in the state of California, number 3 at position, and number 21 nationally, .9912. He's warm to come to Georgia. And then we start talking about 4 stars. So if we just get, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 7 more 5 stars that we're after now. there's a possibility that out of the 7 5 stars, let's see how many 4 stars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 guys right there that are 4 stars. It's possible those 6 4 stars, some of those guys can move up and become 5 stars. Some of those guys are really close to being 5 stars now. There's the opportunity those guys can go on to become 5 stars. If we can get 4 or 5 of the 5 stars, some of these 4 stars become 5 stars. A couple of the 4 stars that we already have committed become 5 stars. Georgia could very well end up with a very historic class as far as recruiting goes. The 2020 class could very well be the biggest and best recruiting class Georgia ever has had. Some of the players that are coming out of here are really starting to see the way that Kirby does business, and they like it. So you have a choice. If you're an elite player, you have a choice if you want to go to play for Alabama, Georgia, or Clemson. That's kind of your 3 right now. When you're looking at that aspect, you kind of have to look at, okay, all 3 of these schools have very strong programs. All 3 of these schools have an opportunity to win a national championship. 2 of these schools have already done so. 1 was paper thin close. So there's a lot of talent there. And you start looking at the program, and you look and you see how they fit. Do you fit in that program? Does that program fit you? If you go to Clemson, they have a nice university, not as nice as Athens. If you go to Tuscaloosa, nice campus, absolutely nothing around the campus. Athens is just nicer. Athens is just better. It's not me being a homer. If you look at those campuses, anybody with any kind of real world anything will walk around there and go, you know what? I like this place. This place is nice. I brought family members in from out of state, and they were absolutely floored at Sanford Stadium. So to me, when you show these players the Athens area, they do the scavenger hunt thing, which seems to be a really big driving factor. Those guys like that a lot. You know, it could very well be an opportunity for Georgia to continue to build onto that class and make it much stronger and much better. Now, all of the guys that I mentioned, hey, what's up, Tram? Go Dogs. One of the things that I mentioned was all of the 5 stars that I talked about, guys, all of those are favored. They're warm. They like Georgia. They have a good relationship with Georgia, and they're really expected to come to Georgia. If you guys made it this far in the video, it's just trying to dodge this heat, man. If you guys made it this far, do me a favor, hit a thumbs up. Helps the metrics, helps the channel, helps me. It's just what we like to see on the. Makes me feel good when I see the thumbs up over there. It means that you guys can actually tolerate the content. So these guys that we're looking at so far, these are the top targets. There's 20, I think there's 20 or so of them. But then we also have what's called high choice, which would be guys that we'd like to have. The top 20 seems to be the guys that we're going after the hardest. The high choice is like, you know what, we'll take them if we can get them. But these guys right here, the first 20 is the guys that fit the roles we need the most, the best. So let's talk about real quick. There's a 5-star guy. I think his name is Savell Smalls. He's out of Washington. He's an offensive linebacker, 6'3", 230. How's it going, Dwayne? Have a great weekend, sir. I guess you're heading out. Or maybe just tell me have a great weekend. Either way, thanks. Thanks for being on the channel. Savell Smalls, offensive linebacker, just 6'3", 230 pounds. Guy's a 5-star. He's 9'9", 7'8". As far as the ranking recruiting go, number 1 in state, number 1 in position, and number 4 nationally. This guy's more like a Lorenzo Carter. I'd really like to see this guy come to Georgia, but he's not really excited about Georgia. You know, for whatever reason, if he wants to go somewhere else, then, you know, all the best luck to him. Broderick Jones out of Lithonia, Georgia is already committed. Trenton Simpson, this guy's a 4-star, number 2 in the state, number 4 in position, number 67 nationally. Trenton Simpson is out of Charlotte, North Carolina, so not too terribly far down the road. And he's really kind of high on Georgia right now. So if we can pull that guy in, that'll be another 4-star. And I'm really not going to dig into all these other guys, but there's a ton of players out there right now that are all 4-stars. I mean, there's probably, yeah, we are stated at that position. We've got some really guys that should be able to make a difference coming up in this year. But I always love seeing linebackers just put the hammer right in the middle of that line and just shut down any kind of run game another team has. That's one of my favorite things to see. Because my son, can you hear me? Yeah. When I see a linebacker dump truck a running back, what do I say? Where is he going? Nowhere. That's one of my favorite things to say. It's like, oh, there he goes up the middle. Oh, where are you going? Nowhere. Well, it look good on paper, boss. Well, it don't look good on the field. So, as far as that stuff goes, I mean, that's kind of where we're at. The UGA commit situation is looking really good. The recruiting situation is looking really good. Georgia has some strong opportunity to continue to improve that ranking in that recruiting class. You jump over here to, there was something else I wanted to talk about. Let me find it real quick. No. Is it this? I think it's this. I'm going to talk about Clemson just a little bit, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what they're looking at as far as their players go. Yeah, we definitely have the best O-line in the country right now, but we'll see how that pans out. So let's talk about Clemson picked up a lot of good players here. They got Brian Breezy, or Bresee, or however you say his name. He's a defensive tackle, 6'5", almost 300 pounds. They'll put some weight on him. Miles Murray, he's out of Powder Springs, Georgia. God, I hated to see that guy go, but you know, it is what it is. 6'5". He's a defensive end, 6'5", 260 pounds. But this guy right here, man, I really, really would have liked to have had this guy. DJ Ugalala, golly, what a day. Pro-style quarterback, 6'5", 246 pounds, 5-star quarterback. And he committed earlier this month. Carson Beck's going to be great, no doubt about it. Guy's an outstanding player. This guy's an outstanding player. I can understand why this guy would have committed to Clemson. Fits his game plan. Oh, our class should be just as good as Clemson. I have no doubt about that. But it's certainly going to take a little bit of time for all this to pan out, and there's a long way to go before we find out the final rankings. But to have 2 5-stars on board so far, Carson Beck is no joke. If you go back and you watch this video on him, I don't know how else to say it except accuracy. Watching the videos on this guy, I watched the videos, I saw the numbers, and I was like, wow, that's impressive. And then I was like, you know what? Let me watch the video on this guy. So I watched the video, and as I start watching the video, I'm like, there's no way he's going to keep throwing passes like that and they're not going to get picked off. He was threading the needle into places that nobody should, except maybe Drew Brees, could fit a football and expect somebody to catch it. And I mean, he's not lobbing it. He is whipping it. And I was like, he's gonna get picked off. And then guy only had like 7 interceptions all year, like 4,000 yards or some ridiculous number. And I was watching that and I went, well, yeah, he can hit small windows like you wouldn't believe. He can throw it downfield, hit a guy in stride, and when you can hit a guy in stride, if you can get a wide receiver who can get just a step, just 1 step, 2 would be great, but just a step and a half or a step or 2 steps, and all he's got to do is this. It doesn't even have to. There's no defense for that. There's none. If we don't get 2 running backs this year, that's okay. But we really need to pick up at least 1 this year, which I think what was his name? I'm losing my mind, dude. Not Zachary Evans. That's the guy we want. Where's he at? Did we pick up 1 yet? I thought we did. No, we didn't. Okay, well, we'll pick up 1 for the years out. I'm sure we'll pick up a 4-star if nothing else. Keep in mind that Keith Marshall was actually a 4-star or 5-star, and I think Todd Gurley was a 4-star. I think Keith Marshall was a 5-star, and I think Todd Gurley was a 4-star. And Keith Marshall couldn't get the job done like Todd Gurley did. So, I mean, I'm okay with 4 stars. I'd like to have 5 stars, but we'll take what we can get. What's going on, Casey? You said Milton? Milton? I don't know. Let me see here. Hold on. Where's this guy? running back. I don't see him on here, man. Did he commit already? Did I miss it somehow? As far as being able to pull Eric Gilbert, I don't know. We should be able to. He's kind of I'll have to look into that one, Casey. I don't know. I didn't see him yet. As far as being able to get Eric Gilbert, I feel pretty strong about that guy. I think that we should definitely be able to pull it. He doesn't have as many offers as he doesn't have as many offers as losing my mind, dude. Losing my mind. Darnell, I don't know. Darnell is pretty. He's pretty entrenched with Alabama. I mean, it could very well go either way, though. They don't have as many offers as, say, Zachary Evans does, but, I mean, you could certainly do that. I think that Eric Gilbert is probably a safer bet. I know Alabama's recruiting him, but I just don't think that Alabama's going to be able to pull this guy. He's a Marietta, Georgia guy. And if you guys don't know where Marietta is, Marietta's close to Atlanta. Atlanta's 80 miles or so, or 70 miles or so from Athens. There's a ton of Dogs fans around here, so it's highly likely that Eric Gilbert is going to end up coming to Georgia. And if so, I mean, he's a highly ranked. He's a highly ranked 5-star recruit. He just hasn't made up his mind. Technically, hasn't made up his mind yet. So to give you an idea of where he would place, where's it at? That's not it. Okay, so if let me go one more to the right here. If we picked him up at a 9.9, he's a 9.954, if I remember correctly. He's currently a 9.954. And this is why I want this guy. If we were to pick him up, he would be the number 10 most or highest ranked recruit we've ever picked up. He'd be the number 10 spot. Would be one spot behind Zamir White. Now, if you look at all of the guys that are ranked above him, above that number, then you get into some interesting names. Obviously, Justin Fields is at the top of the list, so I'm going to start from Isaiah Crowell, who plays for the Raiders now. A.J. Green played for the Bengals. Matt Stafford plays for the Detroit Lions. Jacob Eason's now in Washington. Brandon Miller, Seahawks. Trent Thomas, the Browns. Nolan Smith, obviously, we know who Nolan Smith is. He's still in college football. And Justin Fields is at Ohio State. So out of all those guys I just named, there's one is on our team, 2 are currently playing, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are in the NFL. So they're either on the team, were on the team, and are playing college football somewhere else, or they're NFL on the team or playing college football somewhere else. I mean, this is the best recruiting that we've done in forever. Punters and place kickers. Golly. Not great. Just not great. And here's why. Traditionally, scholarships are not given to punters. They're not given to kickers. It takes a lot to get a coach to want to give a scholarship to a punter or to a kicker. Those guys are usually walk-ons. It's just the way it goes. They would rather spend that scholarship on not just Rock says I was afraid of that was the answer. They would rather spend that scholarship on a talent position or on a line position or just any other position in general that's going to see a lot more play than put that on a kicker. Now, Rodrigo, I mean, Blinky earned his scholarship 10 times over before he actually got it. He was supposed to get it from Mark Richt, but Mark Richt never gave it to him, and finally Kirby Smart did. But let me go to, let me see if I can find the roster real quick. Let me go to, I need to do the NFL. I need to do the Georgia roster. Give me 1 second, guys, because I want to pull that up for you. So I'd say I'm going to give you guys my good side, but I don't have one. So I have this blazingly fast internet because my son's hogging the internet over there playing video games. Let's see. 2019 UGA roster. I try to keep up on this stuff as much as I can, guys, but I'll be honest with you. There's so much information out there that I just don't, there's no way that I think any one person would be able to keep up with all of this stuff. Let's see. Sort by jersey. No, sort by position. Defensive backs, defensive end, linebackers, outside linebackers. Oh. So we've got a redshirt freshman in Jack Podlesny, which I don't know anything about him. We've got a redshirt sophomore, Brooks Busey. I think that's how you say his name. And then we've got Rodrigo. Everybody loves him. He's a senior this year. And then Jake Camarda. And just so you know, if you go to GeorgiaDogs.com, when you get to Camarda's name, there's a little ear button that you can press, so it will tell you how to pronounce his name properly. I don't know why that's necessary. By the way, there's also one by Jake Fromm. So, let me see what else I can find on here real quick. Got a ton of wide receivers that don't play. All right, so yeah. So for those of you who don't know, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the coaching staff. You have Kirby Smart, obviously the head coach. The offensive coordinator is James Coley. James Coley took over the position after Jim Chaney got fired. Special teams coordinator is Scott Fountain. The defensive coordinator for outside linebackers is Dan Lanning. Pass game coordination is Cortez Hankton. Tight ends is Todd Hartley. Offensive line coach, Sam Pittman. If you don't know who Sam Pittman is, you've been living under a rock. Running backs, Dale McGee. Same thing with him. If you don't know who he is, you've been living under a rock. Inside linebacker is Glenn Schumann. Assistant coach, defensive line is Trey Scott. And on-campus recruiting is Luckman Abdullah. And defensive backs coach is Carlton Warren. And that is your starting lineup for the coaching staff. As you can see, we got a pretty decent sized coaching staff. And I'm not even going to go into, I mean, there's a special assistant to head coach and quality control for the offense. I mean, we got a coaching staff that's probably got almost as many people on the coaching staff as we have players. I mean, we have quite the staff, which is good because players that need attention and work can get it, but it is what it is. You get rid of that screen. About Darnell Washington. He's got his list kind of narrowed down to Alabama, Georgia, Miami, Ohio State, and Tennessee. But the real fight is between Georgia and Alabama. And Alabama is more kind of what he's not from around here. He's from Las Vegas. And I think that plays a big factor is because he looks on paper and he sees Alabama and he sees Georgia. Which one's one more? And they're going to say, well, Alabama. So Georgia's really going to have to work on this guy to get him to flip. He hasn't committed to anybody yet, but that's what they say for him. So I'm okay with getting Eric. That's Clemson's team. They got 5-star pro cornerback. They got a 5-star running back. And he's out of Lakeland, Florida. He's 5'11" and 186 pounds. 186-pound guy is kind of undersized already. You really need to be like that 225 mark, and he's a long way from that. Jordan Burch. Oh, Lord. I don't know, man. I I mean, I would love to get Jordan Birch, but I don't think that's going to happen because, well, let me pull that up and I'll tell you why. Jordan Birch. One of the reasons that I don't really see him. I mean, this guy's got a ton of offers. I don't know why. I don't know why South Carolina, Wake Forest, or North Carolina pitched that guy to try and get him to come there. By the way, South Carolina is a huge dumpster fire. We do need him more than Clemson, but the problem that you run into is that he knows Brian Breezy, Breezy, or whatever you want to say his name is, and apparently those guys have talked or whatever, and they've been using Brian to recruit Jordan. And so whenever you've got an inside track like that, it makes it really difficult to pull that player away from that school. I mean, you got to do something pretty impressive. Not that Georgia can't do it, but it's certainly going to take some work to get that guy to come over here. Once Breezy joined, Miles Murphy joined that class last Friday. I mean, it's just, they really picked up some talent, and the more talent they get, the harder it's going to be to get that guy. Now, would Georgia like to have him? Yes, but I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not saying we don't need him, but there's it's not the end of the rainbow if we don't get him. So I mean, he's kind of a hope. I'd like to see it be, we definitely get him, but I just don't know. I hate seeing all these guys from Georgia. By the way, so I'm going to go through this real quick because I noticed this earlier. So you've got a 5-star Miles Murphy from Powder Springs from Georgia going to Clemson. You've got another. So you got a 4-star from Alpharetta. That's the second one going to Clemson. One from Fort Valley, Georgia. That's a 3rd. One from Carrollton, Georgia. That's a 4th. And then you've got Creekview, John Williams from Canton, Georgia. That's 5. That's 5 players on the Clemson roster out of I think they've got 15 or so. 33% of their recruiting class came from Georgia, plus their quarterbacks from Georgia. So, I mean, it's almost like winning a national championship by proxy, isn't it? Ugh. Not a whole lot there, but it is what it is. I'm pretty sure that Eric's going to come to Georgia. He's going to fill that role. I think we're going to be fine with that. I think the recruiting class is going to continue to get better and better. Right now, it's summer. You're going to see more recruits. They're going to come take some visits. They're going to see these other schools. You're going to start seeing more and more players kind of leaning towards Georgia. Trying to make that commit. The school stuff's out of the way. The exams and stuff are out of the way. It's the down season. Now these kids have time to go do this stuff and make their decisions based off of what they want to do. So you'll see probably here in the next couple of months, you'll see a lot more commits come around. But with Georgia only having 10 so far, and 2 of those being 5 stars, I think it's highly likely Georgia could finish with as many as 7 or 8 5 stars. I mean, it's just crazy. I can see Clemson finishing with that many. We need them more. Yep. All right, guys. Well, that's pretty much it for today. So we thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to try to do a video this coming up week of returning class for Georgia. We'll let you guys know then. So thanks so much for tuning in. And as always, God bless.